Hey everyone, in this video I'm not really going to be showing you anything new. I'm just going to be demonstrating some strategies for attacking what I like to call angle puzzles. If you are good to go on these, feel free to just skip ahead to later on in the video when you can see some answers. That way you can kind of get a sense of how you're doing. But if you would definitely, if you would like to watch it in more detail, please feel free to watch the whole thing, of course. So in these angle puzzles, you're going to have to use all of the relationships we've done so far. You're going to need to use all of the vocab regarding the parallel lines. So that could be like, those kind of problems. That would be your alternate interior angles. That would be your consecutive angles. That would be your alternate exterior angles. What else do we have? We have our corresponding angles. All of those. If you remember, alternate interior angles are congruent. Consecutive angles add up to 180. Alternate exterior congruent. Corresponding congruent. We also know about vertical angles. So something like this guy and this guy. Those are congruent. We know about supplementary angles. Those add up to 180. And we probably won't see any complementary angles today. Right angles are less common, and you could usually use the other properties. But we might need to use the fact that a triangle has angles that add up to 180 as well. Put all my degree symbols in there. So those are some things that I might be referencing today. If you want to go ahead and try these problems and then come back and watch me go over them, you could do that. You could pause the video, or if you want to do the first one along with me, you're welcome to do that as well. So let's see what we're given on this first one. Really only two angles, angle 14 and angle 8. So I'm going to start with vertical angles. Vertical angles are always my favorite to start with because they're the easiest to find. Angle 14 is vertical with angle 11. That's because they share the exact two same lines along the x. So right away, I can see that angle 11 must also be 44 degrees. As you watch these videos, you're going to hear me actually thinking out loud. There's not a set way to do this. So even though I've done these problems before, I kind of have to come up with all the answers with a reason in real time while I'm explaining it to you. So it might be a little slow as I figure out relationships as well. Let's see what else we can figure out. I do see a transversal and two parallel lines. So I'm going to highlight those. This line has two arrows on it, and this line has two arrows on it. So those are parallel, and they have quite a few transversals. But I'm going to see if this one can help me. And I'm going to even go past the picture, just in case that helps me as well. So from that, I can see that angle 8 and angle 12 are corresponding. They're both in the upper right-hand corner on those transversals. So that tells me that I can copy the 77 degrees to angle 12 because they're corresponding angles. On the top cluster and the bottom cluster, they are the same. Let's see what else that gives me. Now this isn't an angle I need, but I'm going to put it in anyways, just in case I need it later. I went off the picture and I found the vertical angle to angle 8, and I put in the 77 degrees there. I also know that angle 15 must be 77 degrees because 12 and 15 are vertical angles. So that's already very helpful. Now maybe I'll use some supplementary angles to help me. I know that angle 8 and 9 are supplementary. They make a straight angle along the green line. So 180 minus 77 is 103 degrees. So that gives me 9. And then this is kind of interesting. The corresponding angle to angle 9 would be 14 plus 13 together. Both of these are the bottom right-hand corner. So these two are corresponding. They're in two different clusters and they're congruent. So I could see that 13 plus 14, those two angles down here, have to add up to 103. So 103 minus 44 is 59. So angle 13 must be 59 degrees. All right, making some progress. And I know that angle 13 and angle 10 are vertical angles, so that's 59 degrees. And then I've pretty much gotten that whole section taken care of. Yeah, I don't think there's anything else I can do right there. And I've gotten half the picture done. Let's see what else I want to use. I think I'm going to switch over to using this parallel line with this parallel line. They both have one arrow on them, so that's how I know those are congruent. And I'm going to use this transversal. There's more than one transversal, but I feel like this one has a little bit more information about right now. I know that, I'm trying to pick a color that'll stand out. There we go. Angle 4 is corresponding with 11 and 10 combined. They're both in the upper left-hand corner. So I have to add 59 plus 44. And that's 103. So angle 4 is 103. And 4 is vertical with 6. So I could put 103 degrees in both those spots. To get angle 5, there's a couple of different relationships I could use. One, I could use this straight angle right here and do 180 minus 103. Or I could say that 12 and 5 are corresponding. From the top cluster and the bottom cluster, they're both in the upper right-hand corner. Well, that's a little easier. 77 degrees. And then 5 and 7 are vertical angles, so those are congruent. 77 degrees. All right, I have one little section left. And let's see what I want to use. I think I want to use a triangle property. Here is a triangle. I have 2 out of the 3 angles. I have 77 and 44, and I need to know what the remaining one is. They all add up to 180. So I know 77 plus 44 plus whatever angle 2 is, that's angle 2, has to equal 180. And that's going to come out to 59 degrees. Not the prettiest 59, that's fine. All right, I need angle 1 and I need angle 3. Angle 3 looks like it's part of another triangle right here. So I have 77 degrees, I have 59 degrees, and I have angle 3. Well, the numbers are the exact same as the triangle from the previous triangle. So I'm going to guess that this must be 44 degrees because I know that that's what equals 180. And if I add those up, then yep, it does equal 180 altogether. One angle left, angle 1, and there's going to be more than one way to solve it. One is I could use a straight line, and I could use the fact that angle 1, 2, and 3 are supplementary altogether. And I already have 2 of the angles. I just need one more. All right. Or I can use these 2 parallel lines with this transversal. And I could see that angle 5 and angle 1 have to be corresponding angles, so they're congruent. Either way, I get 77 degrees. Last thing you want to do is copy everything over to the answer spot. The reason that they would have an answer spot like this is because it's kind of impossible to grade or to share with an audience all your work to the side. So by copying it over, it just makes it really nice and easy for someone else to see. So 77 degrees, 59 degrees, 44 degrees, 103 degrees, 77 degrees, 103 degrees, 77 degrees, 77 degrees, 103 degrees, 59 degrees, 44 degrees, 77 degrees, 59 degrees, 44 degrees, and 77 degrees. Now I'm done with that problem. Go ahead and pause the video and try the other 2 remaining puzzles on this page. All right, so the other page, this one, we're going to be talking about here. For this one, you'll definitely have to use some of the information they give you in the instructions. If you don't need my help, just go for it. If you feel like you might want my help, still go for it, but then watch the video when you get stuck so I can go over it with you. All right, so hopefully you've gone for it and you've done as much as you can, or you've done all of it. If you feel like you don't need my help, skip ahead to where I start going over some answers. If you do want my help, watch more carefully. So it tells you right here that angle 1, angle 2, and line 1, line 2, and line AB are all parallel to each other. So I might even highlight them all in the same color. And I can see that there's a transversal going through them. There's actually more than one transversal I might be using. It also tells me that angle 3 and 4 are parallel to each other. So I'm going to highlight those in a different color. So I have two different parallel relationships going on. And then it tells me that angle 2 is 70 degrees. And angle 15 is 150 degrees. Find everything else. All right, I will do that. I'm going to start with my vertical and supplementary angles within a cluster. I think that's the easiest way to start. So if I look at my cluster 1, 2, 3, 4, I know that angle 4 has to be 70 degrees because 2 and 4 are vertical. 1 and 3 have to be supplementary to them. It's going to be 110 and 110. So that gets me that cluster. Now what's really nice is I'm about to get a ton of answers filled out. If I use this transversal, L5, line 5, and I look at all the places where the green and the orange intersect, not the red, I can copy that cluster because they're corresponding. So 5, 6, 7, and 8 have to be exactly the same because each of these angles have a corresponding relationship with 1, 2, 3, and 4. I cannot copy them to 10, 11, 12, 13 because that's a red parallel line. My red and my orange parallel lines do not match. But I can use 16, 17, 18, 19. That's going to have the same corresponding relationship. All right, so that just gave me a lot of angles. All right, I'm happy with that. Let's see what else I want to do. I think I will look at my angle 15, my 150 degrees, and fill out what I can there. So 150 is vertical to, there's not really a label there, but to that angle I just labeled. So those are vertical angles, and the other two must be supplementary. So this is 30 degrees and 30 degrees because they make a straight line. If I look at my red parallel lines and I use this orange line that's remaining as a transversal, I have a cluster. I can copy this cluster to this cluster. Those are the only two places where the red and the orange repeat. I can't do that middle cluster because that was orange and green, which is why the angles don't equal each other. But I can copy my red and orange to my other red and orange. The red lines are the parallel lines and the orange line is the transversal. So I have 30 degrees, 150, 30 degrees, 150. All right, satisfied with that. Let's see what else I want to do. I think I want to use some triangle properties. So if I look at this triangle right here, I know that these have to add up to 180. So 30 degrees, 70 degrees, plus mystery has to equal 180. And that's going to end up being 80. X equals 80, I should say. So this is 80 degrees. And that helps me get that whole cluster, the 20, 21, 22, 23 cluster. 20 and 22 are vertical angles, and 21 and 23 have to be supplementary. And I'm going to get rid of my blue triangle. Now I see another two clusters that are going to be congruent. These two. Those are both red parallel lines with a green transversal. So I can copy the corresponding angles. 10 and 20 are in the same place. That's 80 degrees. 11 and 21, that's 100 degrees. 12 and 22, 80. 13 and 23, 100. All right. I think I'm only missing angle 9 now, which is another triangle. So I have 70 plus 80 plus whatever angle 9 is 180 degrees. And that comes out to x equals 30 degrees. So if it's kind of hard to see all of this, I don't want to waste your time on the video, but I could try to go through these really quickly. So maybe I'll do 4 angles at a time. You do not have to copy these over. I'll put 13 on there too because it's part of the same cluster with 10. 14 and 15, kind of their own section. 16, 17, 18, 19 are a cluster. 20, 21, 22, 23 are a cluster. And then 24 and 25 are their own thing. All right, so here would be all of my answers. Angle 1, 110. I'm not going to say degrees, but I'll keep writing it. 2, 70. 3, 110. 4, 70. 5, exact same. 110, 70, 110, 70. 9 is 30. 10 starts a new cluster. 80, 100, 80, 100. 14 and 15 would be 30 and 150. 16 starts a new cluster. It's another 70, 110, 70, 110. This is a 1. 20, 80, 100, 80, 100. 24 and 25, 30, and 150.